Hey class, how you doing? I'm good, thanks for asking. I just realized I'm just talking to a microphone. How crazy is that? So in the last video we made this navbar up here. So let's start to populate the page with posts from the database. So if we look at the actual Reddit, we have this ignoring this trending stuff. So I'm just gonna maybe scroll down to here. Cool. So we have this pretend that didn't exist. We have this container that pushes everything to the middle. And then we have this left section with the posts, which takes about like 80%, not 80%, like 70% of the width. And then we have this sidebar. So let's recreate that in our app. So let's go back to a VS Code. Let's go to the index page. So Nextjs. So here, let's go. So under this head, let's create a container. So dot container. And here, I'm just going to put like a title, which will not exist, but just to have some content. So we'll say recent posts. And let's look at that. Obviously, make sure you have your server and application both running, both the front and the back end. Okay, so let's see what's happening here. Okay, so our container, okay, I think our container is right behind our navbar. So if you look at our body, yeah, so it's right there. So you just need to give this this thing like a padding. So actually, like this div that wraps the entire homepage, we can give it some padding. So we know our navbar, if you look at our navbar, we know it has a height of 12. So we can just give our page a padding on the top of 12. So we'll say class name equals pt for padding top dash 12 and save that. All right, cool. So we get recent posts. So we get a container, but it's kind of like, first of all, it's really wide. And second of all, it's not centered. So we can solve that by saying mx auto, and that changes it. And we can, by the way, as well go to our Tailwind config, and we can just create. So here inside of our theme, inside the extend, we can add a container key, and here we can edit our container. But I don't think it's very customizable to edit the container. We can just say like something like center true. And I think now we don't need to say mx auto. Yeah, that will already center it just by saying center true. But what I want to do is I want to make it thinner because this container is way too wide compared to the Reddit one. So if we go to the documentation and we check out container, go there, we see that the container, like on every breakpoint, it's almost the same width as the actual max width of the breakpoint. But what I want to do is I want to make it so on the small and medium, like the same width, so 100% width. But from large screens and upwards, I did like calculate the width here on Reddit. It's around like 975. So I want to like cap it at 975 starting from the large screens. So what we can do is let's go to our Tailwind config. And here where we have a container, we can just say false, which will disable the default container. So we can recreate it. So we can go to plugins here and add a function. And this function will destructure from its argument something called add components, which is, like the name suggests, is a utility that lets us add components and like classes with different properties within our Tailwind CSS. So here we'll say the name of this will be .container. So we're essentially just recreating it. And here this will be an object. Let's give it a width. So by default, it will have a width of 100%. 100%. Okay, I forgot to call the add components, so let's just cut this and say add components, and then give this an object, and here we'll have our keys, for which we'll just have one. So we'll have, let's give this a mx of auto, but here we don't have that class, so we can just manually say margin left, and this will be auto, and then repeat that, and this will be margin right. And now we're going to have those widths. So we can have the syntax where we target specific screen sizes. We can use this helper at screen. And now we can use whatever screen size. So here, let's target the small screen. And here we'll have a max width of, let me scroll down, 640 pixels. Let's duplicate this 2 more times. So the next one will be the medium. So on the medium will be, what is it? 768. So 768 pixels. And then from the large and onwards, we're going to have 975. So 975. So let's save. And that alone should take care of it. So we keep this as it is. And now let's have a look at it. So let's refresh. Cool. So now it's pushed to the middle, and it has, so if we inspect it, we see that it has a width of 975. And of course, on smaller screens, it's gonna be 100%. And our navbar is super broken, but we'll eventually fix it. All right, so what I want to do as well, I need some padding on the top because, you know, you don't want to have your content just right next to the navbar. So let's go back here and let's add PT4, so padding top 4. And let's add flex because we need the stuff in the inside of that to have like a flex. Here we have everything shown in a row. So let's add those two sections. So we have the first section will actually have a width of 160. So dash, this is how they do it on Reddit. They have like fixed width for these sections, and then they have some margin between them. So let's do that. So dot w dash 160. Now we'll have our posts inside of here. So we can actually put some comments here. We'll say posts, feed, and here we can say sidebar, and the sidebar will be, actually let's not worry about the sidebar for now, let's just create the post first. So here what we want to do, obviously we want to loop through the posts and show them, but we're not fetching them yet, so let's do that. So let's create here in the home page here, we can use effect to fetch the posts. So let's say use effect, and does it not import it? Yeah, okay, there we go, it imports it. So here what we're gonna do, as we render the first time the page, we're gonna say axios.get, and we're gonna get posts, so /posts.then, and let's now take the result and do something with it. And actually, before we do that, let's add here an empty dependency array, so this only executes once. And here we want to store these posts in a local state variable. So let's create one. So let's say use state, and here we're gonna call this posts, and this will be initially an empty array of posts. And let's import use state from React. Okay, actually that was the wrong option. There we go. So now when we get the result, we're gonna say set posts to res.data. And if we get an error, so let's say .catch. If we get an error, we're just gonna console log it to the console. We're most likely not gonna get an error at all. So let's save this, and now let's loop through those posts. So inside of our post section, we'll say do an expression and say posts.map, and for each post we're gonna return some markup. And let's just for now put a div and give it a key of, so we know like a unique identifier will be the exact identifier, so the key will be post.identifier. And while we're doing this, actually it would be nice if we knew what this post type was, and it will give us like some advantages to like have IntelliSense and so on, you know, the TypeScript stuff. So let's create like a type for posts. So in our file explorer inside the client, actually inside the source folder, let's create a new file called types.ts, and here we'll export all of our types that we have in our application. So the first one will be the post. So here let's say export interface post, and here this will have an identifier, and this will be a string, and we'll have a title, and this will be a string as well. I'm just going to repeat this a couple of more times because they're all strings. So we'll have a slug, we'll have the subname, and we'll have what else, created at, and we'll have an updated at, which I'm not sure if we need, but let's get it anyway. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So let's remove these two and save that. And now let's go to our index and let's import that type so we can use it. So let's say import, misspell that, import post from back one level types. All right, so here where we declare our posts state variable, we can give it a type here, and we'll say this is of type post array. So now if we go down here and we click Control Space, we get this autocomplete in what field that we want to use, which is pretty cool. So let's give this div some styling. So if we go back to the Reddit one, we'll see that our posts, they are rounded, and they have like a white background and some padding, and then we have this section on the left where we can upvote and downvote a post, and then this section on the right that has post metadata and then the data about the post itself. So let's do that. So here we have, so let's give this a styling. So we'll say class name equals This will be a flex because we need to have a row and a left section and a right section. And let's give this a margin bottom of 4 so they don't attach next to each other. And let's give it a white background, so bg-white, and let's give it rounded. And now inside of here we'll have, so the first, let's do a comment here, we'll say vote, not note, vote section. And we'll also have post data section. So for the vote section, we're going to have a div with a class of, this will have a fixed width. So let's say width 10, and we're going to have a class of text center to center the stuff that's inside of it. And we'll have a bg gray of 200, and we'll have rounded L, and I'll explain what this rounded L does. And inside, let's just, for now, let's just say, put a paragraph with maybe a V that represents votes, because this is a bit complex and we're going to have to come back to it. And now we're going to have the post section, and the post section will have a class of w-full, so to take the rest of the width of this div, and we'll have some padding as well, so p-2. And now tab that, and then let's just put a paragraph and say post. Actually, we already have the posts, so let's interact with them. So let's say post.body. Actually, wait, we don't have body. Okay, I forgot to add the body. So body, and this will be a string. Cool. So make sure you have some posts in your database. I know I already have like 2 posts, so I'm sorted. So let's save this and let's take a look at it. Now I should have some posts. All right, there we go. So we get second post about React and first post about React. So that looks good. They're rounded, but for some reason we didn't get padding on the top. Okay, I put PR, but that's wrong. It should be PT. So PT-4. Cool. Okay, so we get the padding on the top, and we get this left section for votes and then the right section as well. Nice. So let's actually, so what do we have? We have this section on the top that has like an image. For now, we don't have images for our subs, so I'm just going to use a placeholder. And actually, let's go search for gravatar placeholder. And it should be here. Yeah, I just want this placeholder, this image here. Let's just copy the image address and let's just use it temporarily. So we have that image of the Reddit, the subreddit itself, and then /r/whatever that subreddit is, and the link to it, and then some posted by the user, and then like timestamps, and this timestamp is as well a link to the post itself. So let's add these. So let's go back to our index.tsx. And by the way, I forgot to explain this. Rounded L is basically rounded left, because if we just give rounded, it's gonna be rounded up here, and we don't want that. We just want it to be rounded on the other side. So let's keep it as rounded L. So here where we have the post data, let's wrap this, or actually let's just remove that, and have a div with a class of flex and items center. And here inside of here, we're gonna, first thing is we need that link to the sub. So we're gonna need a link from next link. Make sure you import that. And this will have an href to the subreddit. So actually this needs to be an expression, and let's do backticks /r/ and then do $ curly brace and concatenate post.subname. And now close this link, and inside this link we're going to have an image. So this will be the image of the sub. So this for now will have a hard-coded source. Actually, I copied something else, so let's copy that again. So let me copy this image address and let's paste that there. So now that's the hard-coded image, and here let's give it some width and height. So let's give it a width of 6, h-6. Let's give it some margin on the right so that it doesn't just attach to the text. So mr1. And let's close this tag, and now next to it we're gonna have as well a link to the sub, but now this will be the text. So we can just copy this. We can't put 2 children inside of the link tag, so we have to duplicate this. And here instead of this image, this will be an anchor tag, and let's give this some classes as well. So class name, let's give this text XS because it's really small text. And it has also, it has font bold. So let's give it that. And also when it's hovered, it becomes underlined. So let's say font dash bold and hover : underline. Close the anchor tag. And inside of there, we're going to say /r/ and then concatenate, or actually not concatenate. This is a JavaScript, just do an expression post.sub name. Let's take a look at that. All right, okay, so this needs to be rounded. So let's go back and add rounded full. All right, cool. So now it's fully round like a circle. And that's a link, but if I hover over it, it's not showing me like a cursor. So let's add on to it cursor pointer, cursor dash pointer. All right, so now if I hover over it, I get this cursor. And of course, that's a link to /r/react.js, which of course doesn't exist yet, but that's the valid link that we wanted to add. And here we have the styling similar to the one on Reddit. So cool. So this section is done. So let's add, so now we have this dot and then some space. We have posted by and then the user. So let's do that. Actually, I don't know if I can I actually just put this? Does that work? Okay, no, it doesn't, but can I use fragment? Okay, let me try fragment and put that, and let's import fragment from React. Okay, that works, but this now, okay, this now if you hover it, you get like a text editor thingy. So maybe let's add this class to that. Not pointers, pointer, save. All right, cool, that works. We just needed to wrap them in a fragment. All right, so this is a better solution. We don't have repetition. Nice. Okay, now let's add a paragraph with a class of text XS as well. Text XS and a class of text gray 600. And inside of here, we'll have that dot thing. So let's go and get that dot thing. So let's go to Reddit. Okay, did it refresh? That's hilarious. Let's copy this dot from there. So just copy it and let's put it there. Put some space and then say posted by. And then after that, we're going to have the username. So and this will be a link. So let's say link, class name. And so this will be actually not here actually. This will be just href, and this will be to, so let's do an expression, backticks and say /u/ that's where the users are. So the /r is for a subreddit and /u is for a user. So this will be, actually, do we have this? I don't think we have this. So this will be post.username, which we need to add. It doesn't exist yet. But for now, let's just say user, and we'll come back to this. So inside of there, we're going to have the name of the user, or actually like the same text, but in an actual text. So we'll say anchor tag with a class name. And let's give this some margin on the right and left. So mx1. And also let's give it hover underline. I might actually style all links to have hover underline because I'm finding myself having to do that. But for now, let's just keep it as it is. So inside of here, we'll say /u/user. Again, we'll come back to this. So we have the user link, and then let's take a look at it. So let's go back. All right, so this is attached to the React.js text. So what we can do, and also it's kind of, it needs to be grayed out as well. So what we can do, we can put it in its own span. Let's say span.mx1, and then put that dot so we don't have to worry about white space. And let's make this gray 500 because this is a bit too dark. All right, so that looks much better. And is the text smaller here? No, it's the same size. That's fine. All right, so posted by /u/user, which is a link to /user, but we're going to get that dynamically in a little bit. So after that, we have the timestamp, which is as well a link to the post. So for this, we could use moment, but we don't need a lot of functionality. But for this, I usually use something like day.js. So let's install that. So open the terminal and cd into client and say npm install day.js. And let's import it here at the top. We'll say import day.js from day.js. For day.js to have like that relative time, we need to use a plugin that comes with it. So import, we're going to import from day.js/plugin/relative time. And we're just going to call this relative time as well. And right after that, actually here, under the import for types, we'll say day.js.extend, and we'll pass it our plugin. So relative time plugin. Cool. So now we can use day.js. So under this link, we're going to have another link, and this will be link href, and this will link to the post itself. So let's do backticks /r slash, and this will be now the subreddit. So post.subname and slash, so we have, if you go to a post, so let's go to this post, for example, we have slash r slash the subreddit, which is in this case memes, and then slash comments. Like I said, we're not going to do this. It's just going to be like this, slash identifier slash slug. So let's do that. So we have slash r slash post subname slash, and then concatenate post dot identifier, and then slash concatenate as well post dot slug. All right, let's close that link tag. Inside of here, we'll have an anchor, and this will say, actually, let's give it some style actually. So class name, let's give it some margin on the right and left. So mx1, and then let's give it the hover underline style as well. So hover underline, and inside the anchor tag, we'll have the timestamp, but like for a human readable timestamp. So we'll say day.js and pass it post.created@, and then say dot from now, and do that as a function and save. Let's have a look at it. All right, cool. So we get 15 minutes ago, and it's underlined, and if we click on it, it goes to that post. Nice. So let's create the rest of the data, which is in the next line. Actually, before we do that, let's fix the user thing. And also, I know that we're going to need to use this post link, this slash r slash whatever, a couple of times. So what we can do, we can either generate it once here, or we can generate it as part of the API response and then have it as in a variable. For example, we could just have it here and say just post.url, which doesn't exist, but we can create it. And also, so let's open in our entities, our post entity. So back in the server code. So here, what's strange as well about TypeORM, this is just one little strange thing, is that even though we have this column, it's not included by default. So we can we have to add at column and add our username like this as a string, and now it's going to be included in the response. And also to include that URL, actually we can do like two approaches. The first one, we can use the afterload listener, and then have like a function here and say create fields, and then have this function and say this.url, and then concatenate the URL, which will be, so let's do backticks and say do $. Actually, before we do $, we do slash r slash, and we say this dot subname, and then slash this dot identifier, and then slash $ curly brace this dot slug. And we don't have URL, so we can create that property. We can just say URL string. And by the way, since this is a virtual field, by the way, these are called virtual fields, we can add the protected access modifier to it, so it can't be edited from outside the instance itself. And this itself, this alone will work. So if we save this, and let's actually go to Postman, and we go to read posts, we fetch this. There we go. We get, let me make this bigger. We get the username, which we included, and we also get this URL, so that's now easier to use. We don't have to concatenate it each time we need it. The other approach that I think is a bit better, we can use class. Okay, we don't have any import from it. We can use class transformer. You can use, like we used earlier, the exclude. We can use now include. So here we can say add include. Or is it, actually no, it's not include, it's expose, add expose, and make sure that's imported from class transformer there. Actually, let me fix these, the ordering of these imports. So here we'll say, where is it, at expose, and we'll have our field, which actually will be a getter. So we'll say get URL as a function, and this will return a string, and this will return the same from here. So we'll just say return this. And this is equivalent to this, so now we can just omit this, and it will work exactly the same. So do this. Okay, there's a problem with my server. Let's check. Okay, this is like a tsconfig rule that's becoming a bit annoying. So what I can do, I can just disable it in production, in development rather. So I'm just gonna disable the no unused locals, and that should run just fine. Of course, in production, I'm going to enable it and then make sure that there is no unused locals. So let's check in Postman, and there we go. So we get our URL same as earlier, but now using class transformer. It's just two approaches, whatever makes sense for you, use it. So now that we have that, we can actually add it to the type. So here in the post interface, we can even put a comment here and say virtual fields, and here we'll have URL, which is a string, and we'll have username, which is a string. Actually, no, username is not a virtual, it exists in the database, so we can put it up here. So now that we have these two, and we're getting them from the API response, we can use them here. So here where we have /u/user, we can substitute this with post.username, and same goes here. So post.username. Cool, and this post.url will now actually work. Let's go to our browser. Okay, ignore that. So we get the same as earlier, but now we have our user, our actual user, which is John. So that's working. All right, so next is we need to show the title of the post. This is a bit creepy. I'm going to select another one. All right, this one, I like this one. So we have a title here, and usually if we have a body, it will appear under, but this, I think this asks Reddit does not allow you to add a body, but we will add a body to our posts here. So let's do the title. So scroll down. So after this div that has item center, we can put our title, and this will be a link as well to the post. So we'll say link href, and this will be post.url. You see now we don't have to repeat that massive bit of code. We can just access the URL. And now inside this link, we'll have an anchor tag, and let's give it some styles. So class name, let's give it some margin on the top and bottom. So my1. And let's give it text LG because the text is larger, and let's give it font medium. Close that, and this will be post.title. And now we can check for the body because the body is optional. And actually we can edit that in the interface. We can say body and add question mark because that's actually optional. So here in our index we'll say post.body and do and. So if this is not null, we'll show a paragraph, so P with a class name of, let's give it as well margin on the top and bottom, so my1 and text -sm, and here we'll say post.body. All right, let's look at that. All right, cool. So we get second post about React.js, and same thing for first post. Cool. So that looks nice. Now let's add these buttons on the bottom, which I'm calling action buttons. And these we'll use font awesome icons, and we'll use this text in front of them. So let's create them. So after the body, let's create a div with a class of flex. And here, so the first one will be the comments one. So we don't actually have comments yet attached to the posts, so we can just have some dummy text instead. So this will be a link, and we'll say link with a href. And this will actually lead to the post as well. So say post.url, and inside of there we'll have an anchor tag, and here we'll have, actually because we have two elements inside of there, we can wrap them in a div. So here we'll have a div, and we'll give it some classes. So here what we need to do is this needs to be rounded, and it needs to be, when it's hovered, it changes the background color, and it needs some I think some padding as well, and some text color and so on. So we have text gray, and we'll use like we used earlier. What did we use? Yeah, text gray 500. We'll use that here as well. So we'll say padding on the right and left, px1, and we'll give it some margin on the right as well, margin right 2, and let's give it text gray 500, and let's give it rounded, and a cursor pointer as well, cursor dash pointer. And when it's hovered, it's gonna have a lighter background color. So say hover :bg gray 200. Close that div, and here we'll have, so the first one will be the comment. So actually, let me check what icon is that. Font awesome, search for comment. Not this one, not this one. Yeah, this one, so I'm looking for this one. It's very similar to the Reddit one. So this will be, yeah, FAS, FA comment alt. So let's copy that. Let's head over here, paste it, but add on to it FA-XS because we need it to be small. And here, this is class name. And next to the comment, we'll have a span. and this will have a class name. Or actually, maybe we can give it to the wrapping div. So we'll say here text XS, and let's see what that would look like. So here inside the span, we'll have, for now, let's just hard code and say 20 comments, and save that. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so that looks okay. What do we need? Okay, that looks okay, but we need some margin between the icon and the text, and we need some, I think, some more padding on the top and bottom. And also this color is a bit too dark for the icon. So let's use gray 400 to give it PY1 as well, to have some padding on the top and bottom. And okay, we need some margin for the icon. So here we'll say MR1, save that. All right, that looks a bit okay. Maybe let's I don't know why this is having a different color. Should we give it to this span itself? Class name. Okay, no, it should be this. Yeah, it's the same. Oh, I think the font is, bolder. So here let's actually, so this is applying from that. I didn't need to add it. Let's say font bold. Let's look at it. Okay, that looks good. Cool. So let's add the other ones. So what's the other ones? We have share and save, and let's just add like 2 of these more divs. So here another div, another div. So this will say share, and this will say save. And I think these comments, these icons rather, this is the bookmark and this is share. So let's search for them. So we have here bookmark. Yeah, this one. Or is it actually solid? Or yeah, it's the solid one. This. Yeah, this one. Actually, it's just FA bookmark. So just change that here. So FA bookmark. And the other one I think is share. So share. Yeah, it's this one. So yeah, just FA share. So FA dash share. This should actually, no, this is share, and this is bookmark. Bookmark. Cool. Let's look at it. All right, that looks good, but I think there's too much margin on the right and left. Yeah. Let's just say margin right of just 1. Okay, that looks better. Maybe for some reason this icon looks like it's a different color. Maybe it's just like it has a lot of space. Anyway, if there's any other changes, I'll make them like later. Actually, one thing that I wanted to touch on is that if you notice that we are actually rendering this page, but what we're doing is we're fetching the posts from inside the page itself. So if you look at the actual, so if we go to network, we check here, we just refresh, and let's go to all. We see that we have this localhost which serves the HTML, which is basically empty, and then this will fetch the posts. So we're not server-side rendering the posts, which is okay. This is what Reddit does. But if you want to actually server-side render your content, if your website like depends on like the content itself needs to be server-side rendered, so what you can do is we can go here in our index. We can add, actually let's go and check on the documentation. So Nextjs, let's go to docs, let's go to get server-side, yeah, data fetching. Let's go to, yeah, get server-side props. So here we need to add this function to our component or to our page. So we can actually, let's copy the TypeScript one. Where is it? Actually, I'm just gonna copy this, and yeah, this one right here. And let's go here at the bottom of our page, and we need, I think it's a get server-side, yeah, get server-side props as the type return for this. We could just say here export const get server-side props of type get server-side props equals async, and it takes this context. Let's do arrow here. So what this basically does, this is a function that runs on the server side once before this page is created and rendered, and it does something. You know, we can fetch some data and then send it to the page, and then before the page is rendered, we can render it with that data. As opposed to what we're doing right now, which is client-side rendering. We've rendered the page, and once the first render is done, we send a request to our server, and then we fetch that data, and then we re-render the page. Both approaches are okay. It depends on your type of application. So I'm going to show you now how to do server-side rendering. It's simple. So here we'll say, so let's actually wrap everything in a try-catch block. So here it shows us this example where you fetch the data, and then if you have the data, you if no data, that means if there is an error, you redirect to the home page. Otherwise, you return the props. So let's remove all of this. We have Axios, right? So we can say const. Actually, let's do our try-catch block, try-catch, and here we'll say const res equals. What's wrong with this actually? Okay, we just need to return some props. If we do return props, yeah, we just needed to do this. But so let's write the rest. So we'll say await Axios dot get, and we just get the posts like we did from inside the page, but here now on the server side. And sometimes maybe you have to manage 2 Axios instances, and depends on your setup. So I'm not gonna worry about it too much here. So here we get the posts, and we simply just say return props. We need to do this props thing, and we'll say posts will be res.data. And if we get an error, which we most likely won't, we just return props, or like props. And here we'll say error, and we can say whatever here. We could just say something went wrong, and then on the client side, maybe redirect from here. It depends on the app. But here, well, let's just return that data. And now here we get it as a prop. So inside of here, we can destructure it and just say post like that. And we can remove this, and this would work exactly the same. So let's save, make sure there's no errors. There isn't. So now let's go to our page. Let's refresh. Cool, so we get the same data, exactly the same. But now if we check our local host, we see that we have our response, which is an HTML. And now everything is here. So if we search here, for example, React.js, we see that the content of the post is already in the HTML. So everything is already rendered. Now, this is cool, but one disadvantage of doing this is that the time to interactive can a bit suffer. So if your request is a bit slow, if you refresh your page, it takes a bit before you see anything and everything is blank. The advantage of using client-side rendering for certain content on your page is that you can have your page, and then while that content renders, you can, while that content is being requested, you can show, any animation. You can use as well something like end progress to show animation for server-side rendering, but it's just more pleasant to show like some content on the page that comes from loader or some like skeleton divs as well. So I'm just going to do the approach that Reddit does, which is client-side rendering. So I'm just going to comment this out and leave it as a reference for you in the future if you want to use server-side rendering for data. And but for now, we're just going to stick with client-side rendering. And by the way, even if we're not using server-side rendering, we're still using, of data, we're still using so many advantages of Next.js, like creating the whole page with meta tags, and also code splitting our JavaScript on different pages depending on the page, and a lot of other optimizations that are done for us in the background. So yeah. Anyway, so that's that for this video. Please again, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.